I don't know about you. I got about halfway through the first instalment of this wine-a-thon last Thursday and felt genuinely nauseous. I mean, I could feel vomit rising inside me, but also a sense of tedium. Like, we'd heard all this before with Oprah. Nothing really seemed that new. It was just a new gloss put on all this stuff. But the main purpose of it just seemed to be to attack the royal family, to attack the institution of the monarchy, to attack Britain as a racist country. What do you make of all this?
It was all very distasteful, Piers. I was totally bored by the whining. And, you know, the curtsy, the thing she said about medieval times, her lunch with the Queen was like medieval times, which, as you know, is a Disney-type entertainment place for kids. And it's just so horribly disrespectful and just a wine fest. I mean, is the book going to be the same thing? Whining? Is there going to be no positive points? And that whole thing of him filming himself on the Freedom flight, they must have had that deal with Netflix done months before they ever left. So the whole thing was a setup. Why, unless you had a deal, why would you have done that filming of yourself on the plane and all of that?
And also, what kind of freedom?
Doing a video diary, what?
Yeah, and what kind of freedom is it if all you're doing is living in your California mansion with unbelievable privilege and wealth, and you're signing all these deals with companies who want their pound of flesh, and that pound of flesh is exclusively trashing your family? I mean, this is all they do. From the Oprah interview onwards,
but
all they've done is trash their families.
Onwards is trash. But there's nothing about themselves, you know, and this is a great time for them to keep talking about their charity. But no, it's about them being these poor little children who are so much in love and how abused they've been. Their race, the way they act, everything has been, you know, abused by the public, by the press, by the royal family. Well, do you know what? You've got a great life. You've got a beautiful family. You're so much in love. Move on. Get a life. Move on. And they just can't seem to, because their living is by telling their truth on the royal family. That's how they make their living.
Yeah.
Through their truth, as they say.
Yeah, no, I agree. Di Davies, on the question of their security specifically, because you were obviously responsible for a lot of royal security for many years, Harry claims that they were sort of had their security all taken away. Is that even remotely likely to have been true?
Well, no, the answer is absolutely not. The protection team followed them to Canada. It was when they moved from Canada to the United States, somebody far higher than I in my present role or my old role decided, along with a committee that decides this called RABAC, they decided that it was no longer sustainable for British police officers to continue. And I totally and utterly agreed. And can I say, the last time you and I spoke, we were talking about the lies that his Uncle Andrew put across. And here we are again. As an investigator, as you rightly have said, and many others, there are so much inconsistencies in this. There are so many half-truths. And my concern is, as I said, having had some information from Texas, as to the number of individuals there who have believed this hook, line and sinker.
Yeah.
And if you know your history of attacks on the royal family, as I do, then you would start to realise this is potentially very serious indeed, not only for the royal family, but for a fixated person on either side to get in touch and cause, as it did with President Reagan, as it did with Her Majesty a Queen last Christmas, a man with a crossbow, etc., etc. Every year, over 1,000 referrals are made to the Fixated Threat Assessment Centre. Most of them are harmless, but amongst them there is a hardcore who could pose serious risk. And that's what I've been concerned about as a consequence of this nonsense that's been spewed out by these two and some of their supporters.
Yeah, I completely agree. OK, look, Marnie, we've had a lot of, animated debate about this, and I completely respect a lot of the stuff that you've been saying.
Vice versa?
My issue with this is I'm not sure what the supposed end game is or how much more of this we're supposed to stomach. I mean, this is another 3 hours of trashing coming on Thursday, then the book, then a series of interviews around the book. This is just a never-ending stream of attacks on their own family.
I appreciate that's how you feel, but ultimately what they're really doing is highlighting the disgusting elephant in the room that the majority of this nation are more than happy to ignore. And that's what's happening right now. And they're trying to do it in a way that allows them to look after their family, basically. So if it means making money whilst they do it, then so
What is that elephant in the room?
Racism. Racism in terms of racial prejudice within an institution and racism in terms of this country being racist.
But I said to you the other day, when things got a bit heated
Yeah.
at this desk, that I felt that if you're going to make incredibly serious charges of racism in an institution like the British royal family and the monarchy, you've got to provide some evidence. They've now had a year and a half or more since the Oprah Winfrey interview in which they made all these incendiary claims. They've not produced any evidence of any racism.
OK, so what I'm hoping is that these next set of documentaries, they will actually provide us with some names so we can kind of stop discussing
What if it doesn't?
And going. If it doesn't, well, what I'll do is I'll provide you with my evidence. Is that all right? If you give me a minute, I'll give you some evidence as to why that specific institution is racist, which I can do. So, in terms of the evidence that you are likely to find, it is going to be in the form of covert racism. And I know you don't like that word, but it is a fact. So, examples include, in terms of the institution, the distribution of the Order of St. Michael, which is a badge which ultimately depicts a white man with wings trampling a black man. We can also delve into the fact that that institution hung up pictures of a little black slave boy on the walls within the institution, and everyone was so blinded by their racial prejudice that no one saw fit to take it down when the black president popped round for tea. Or we can delve into the fact that the Queen Elizabeth, or rather the late Queen, made sure that she did not have to adhere to the equalities laws and legislation, which is arguably what a true racist would do, and we cannot take away the fact,
You're
negate the fact.
You're calling the late Queen a true racist?
No, I'm saying it's arguably what a true racist would do, to make sure...
She wasn't racist. She was the head of the Commonwealth. She couldn't have been a less racist person if she had tried. Ask anyone in any of the Commonwealth countries about the Queen. None of them ever felt the Queen was a racist. And when you say things like that, you lose me. I'm like, that's a ridiculous thing to say. OK,
so I'll explain it. So racism was the building blocks for the transatlantic slave trade, a trade that was funded by the royal family, and they ultimately made their wealth off of the blood, sweat and tears off of enslaved Africans.
And it was this country...
Hold on a second.
It was this country that actually led the end of slavery.
Which everyone likes to talk about.
Hundreds of years ago, by the way.
But you also contributed to it. And what you fail to realise is that the legacy of colonialism and slavery and British politeness play a vital role in the perpetuation of covert racism. In other words, the present-day racism that I talk about today, which is in the form of covert racism.
So would you just say you've described the late Queen as effectively a true racist? And you think the country is racist?
OK, so if anyone that doesn't think that this country is racist...
No, are we a racist country?
So I'm going to
or are we a country that actually is remarkably tolerant, has extraordinary multicultural society, but includes some racist people? Which one is it?
So if you don't think this is a racist country, you should probably speak to Diane Abbott, the black footballers who have to contend with racism on a daily basis, or we can delve into the 85,000 people who reported...
So you're saying because a few people...
Can I just finish,
Yeah.
Piers? Or we can delve into the 85,000 people who reported racially motivated hate crimes in 2021, and it's subsequently gone up to 100,000.
Right.
Or we can delve into the 120,000 people who have left their jobs in the last 5 years due to racism. Or we can delve into the quarter of staff and 56% of students within higher education that have to contend with racism. Or if none of those are acceptable, I can happily show you my plethora of messages that I receive after this interview.
I do not dispute for a moment there are vile racists in this country. I don't dispute for a moment if you trawl enough on social media, you'll find them. But I do think they are the ugly little barnacles peering out from rocks. I don't believe that they are actually what this country stands for. I don't believe the vast majority of people in Britain are racist. I don't think we're an institutionally racist country. And I certainly don't think the Queen had a racist bone in her body, which is why she's such a beloved figure in the Commonwealth.
So can I just add that... Again, I said it to you last time. This country has a very rudimentary understanding of racism, often referring to overt racism as the defining factor for racism.
The problem with covert racism...
That couldn't be even more...
Right, but the trouble with covert racism is you end up with people like Meghan Markle who say, I was a victim of racism, but don't feel they have any compulsion to have to say what actually happened, when it happened, and who said it. And that is, if that's covert racism, the problem with it is there's no hard fact to support it.
But that's the issue with... OK, so firstly, I will preface my statement by saying I agree with you. It should be known. That's a fact. It should be known, and she should make a point of saying it. I really do hope that she does. But ultimately, like I said, this is about her highlighting a truth that many people are failing to acknowledge. And like I said...
All right, let me bring back Sharon.
An odd frame of reference.
Let me bring back Sharon. Sharon, look, these are pretty incendiary comments from Iman here, that we are a racist country, that the Queen effectively was a true racist. Covertly or otherwise. I mean, I find those comments pretty offensive. What do you think?
I think that, as in every country in this world, there are a sect that are anti-Semitic, racist. There always will be, no matter what. There always will be, because there's good and bad in every race. There's always a little group of these nasty little evil people that dislike someone because of colour or religion. Those are the two main dislikes. So, yes, there is a certain minority in England that are very racist and are very anti-Semitic. OK? And I can say that being a Jew. So the thing is, it's never going to end. It hasn't ended for thousands of years. Why should it end now? But you carry on. You don't give these people a platform. You want to talk about somebody with a platform, Kanye West. He has millions of followers that follow him, that adore him, and will do what he wants them to do.
You see, I actually think Meghan Markle...
The country isn't overall racist.
No, and I think Meghan Markle branding us a racist country and attacking the institution of the monarchy as racist.
It's unfair.
I think
totally unfair.
She is what I would call a race baiter. If she doesn't produce hard evidence to support these incendiary claims, she becomes a race baiter, exploiting racism and the issue of racism to act as a kind of protective shield around her and to make herself extremely rich and famous as a professional victim. Last word to Di Davis. Di, just as somebody who has been around the royal family for many, many years, how do you feel about the way the reputation of the royal family is being so traduced in this way?
Well, I'm appalled, frankly. Some people see racism around the corner. Racism is in Africa, it's in India, it's in every continent. And so to pick on the royal family in this way is both insulting. It's also insulting. Most of the media are very decent people. I know a huge amount of people for the last 50-odd years in the media. Most like you and I are decent people. To vilify both the royals, the media, and the nation, and somehow imply we're all racist, is nonsensical, in my opinion. And I just despair that there are so many who will take the word of proven liars and then translate it into this issue about racism.
And you were around the Queen a lot on this suggestion that she was some covert racist herself. What do you say to that?
Unbelievable nonsense.
Thank you, Di. Appreciate you joining me. Thank you, Sharon, over there in LA. Hope to catch up with you soon. Thank you, Mom, for joining me. I appreciate it.